Hi, my name is Yuri Tiagi, and did you know that by 2050, we'll have to feed nearly 10 billion people? And the catch is, we're going to have to use less land, less water, less resources in general, and we're going to have to face a changing, more hazardous climate to create all these resources and food for people. So the question is, how are we going to approach this problem? Is it farmers? No. While farmers are part of the solution, the main people who will be focusing on increasing the production of food while also trying to prevent the climate crisis from occurring, because keep in mind that nearly 25% of emissions come from this kind of agricultural sector. The people who will be focusing on this issue will be agricultural science majors. So agricultural science is one of the most underlooked fields, I think, in STEM, and I think it's really a shame because this field is one of the most vital and important fields to our future, especially as the population increases and we need people to figure out how we're going to feed them all. So in this video, I just want to go over how agricultural science, what kind of major agricultural science is, what do you expect it to be learned, what are some career opportunities, and just why you should consider agricultural science as a potential major. So to start, to be more specific, what does agricultural science focus on? So agricultural science focuses on the application of bio, chem, tech, and engineering to solve issues around food production, sustainability, and net resource management. So notice how I listed biochem, tech, and engineering. So agricultural science is really a kind of interdisciplinary field. It's not just about farming. It's not just about biology. It's really interdisciplinary, and it focuses on quite a lot of different subjects to kind of address this issue. And yeah, one thing I really want to stress is that agricultural science is not just farming, right? If you become a agricultural science major, you're not destined to become a farmer. You're not destined to do this. It's very much not just like a farming major, right? You're not just going to learn about farming. You're going to be learning about all this stuff and how we can apply it to agriculture and how we can apply it to improve, this kind of field. And so I guess an analogy that I like to consider when thinking about agricultural science and farming is that if you imagine farming to be kind of like cooking, right? So farming is just like the actual act of cooking and the output of making a meal. Agricultural science is like everything that goes on before that. It's all the equipment, the actual recipe, even the kitchen, the entire kitchen is all created because of agricultural science. So again, while farming is kind of the output, agricultural science is everything that allows that output to occur. It's all the technology that's being used, all the kind of crop techniques that are used or farming techniques. So agricultural science is really everything that allows the output, the dish or the meal to be created via farming. And so really it's not just farming, it's way more. It's the broader field that encompasses everything you need to really know or to do farming. So what are the key areas you'll be focusing on as an agricultural science major? So the key areas, first one being kind of obvious, is plant and crop science. So with plant and crop science, you'll be expected to learn things like yield or how to improve yield. So yield is just like how successful your crops are in producing food. So you'll be looking at how to improve that. You'll be looking at how to design kind of like pest and drought resistant crops. So this might involve creating maybe like chemical solutions or trying to breed plants that are more pest/drought resistant. And you'll also be looking at things like genetic engineering too, right? So this could involve just like breeding, or it could involve like more modern techniques like CRISPR to create better plants, better crops. So for example, you might want to create like a drought resistant crop or maybe a more nutritious one, and you can do this via genetic engineering, which is what you'll kind of learn in this kind of science. You'll also be looking at animal science, because again, animals are also part of agriculture, right? Poultry, cattle, etc. And so you'll be looking at the welfare of these animals, right? Because we don't want to kind of like be inhumane with them, obviously. You'll be looking at how to make these kind of things more nutritious. And you also want to be kind of sustainable with them, right? So you'll be looking at how to make it sustainable breeding and stuff like that, or sustainable usage, because these aren't really infinite resources, right? We have to be sure that the way we treat these animals is humane. It's also sustainable in the future too, right? So there's that. You also want to focus on soil science. So this kind of goes along with plant and crop science, but soil is a very important part of growing plants and crops. And so you'll be looking at stuff like how can we make soil better and more, um, I guess, yeah, better for plants and crops to grow in. You'll also be looking at things like agricultural engineering. So agricultural engineering, I think, is a really interesting field that works to kind of improve agriculture through engineering practices and employing engineering in agriculture. So, for example, precision agriculture. So, precision agriculture involves using things like GPS and sensors to improve efficiency and to improve the output you get on farms. Or you can be looking at things like drones, right, to just monitor crops, or robotics to maybe like automate some tasks that humans may do or that robots could do better. And you could also be looking at things like smart irrigation, which could help with irrigating your crops and improving water distribution and kind of preventing waste from occurring. Finally, you'll also be looking at things like food science, right? So food science kind of focus on food safety, nutrition research, right? Like how can we make foods more nutritious, healthy, etc. And finally, you'll also be looking at things like sustainability, right? Because right now, farms are really, they're somewhat sustainable, right? But we can definitely improve their sustainability and kind of their climate um, oriented like focus by focusing on this topic. So as you can see, there's a bunch of fields and topics that encompass agricultural science, which again shows how it's not just farming, it's really about this interdisciplinary mesh of like science, technology, engineering, biology, all these fields coming together to create a more efficient and better way of agriculture. And so what are the actual kind of job outlooks and careers you could get as this type of major? Well, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, jobs are expected to grow by 6% from 2025 to 2035. So over the next decade, jobs will increase by 6%. And what this means is in a field like being agriculturalist, right? They expect that on average, there'll be 4,000 new jobs per year added to these fields. So while 6% or 5,000 might not seem like that much, it's actually well above the average on most fields in terms of job growth. And when you consider that agricultural science already isn't that popular of a major or career path, this number is actually a huge number, and it really shows how there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of growth expected in this field in the future. But what is this growth? I mean, what are the actual careers you can get considering this growth? So some careers you can get, like I said before, you could be an agriculturalist. So an agriculturalist is basically someone who focuses on helping farms improve their yield by using like science and like kind of like sensory data and stuff like that. So you'd be helping farms with that. Or you could be a food technologist. So a food technologist kind of researches processed foods and kind of tries to improve the nutrition, stuff like that. Just improves like the production of foods and making them more safe, etc. Stuff like that. You could also be food a agricultural engineer, which is similar to what I said before about the engineering thing, right? So you'll be focusing on trying to apply engineering to farms and just agricultural systems. You could also be a sustainability consultant, right? Because I think in the future also sustainability is really a big concern that we all have. And so sustainability consulting could be a potential path in the future. You could also be a policy analyst, right? Because policies are being made on agriculture, and so if you were an expert in agriculture, you could be a good analyst policies. And so there's actually a lot of people applying for these kind of jobs. And of course, there's way more jobs that I haven't listed, but these are kind of major ones you could kind of get as a agricultural science major. And so what people are actually hiring for these kind of jobs? Well, you have, of course, agricultural startups hiring. You also have biotech firms hiring in kind of the private sector. And then in the government sector, right, you have uh, organizations like the USDA, the FDA, the EPA, and much more, looking for people who can do these fields and who can you know kind of do all this stuff as a expert. And finally, you're also looking at international organizations, so organizations within the UN that are focusing on SDGs, or like nonprofits, right? So nonprofits are also looking for people to kind of focus on this and kind of improve agriculture for the future. So finally, I kind of want to end this video with why should you consider agricultural science as a potential major in college. So first reason why, of course, is demand and growth. So right now, I think we face a shortage of people who are really good at STEM and really good at agriculture and can apply both into the field of agriculture. And so as you can see, there's a lot of demand and there's a lot of growth, but really not a lot of people who are looking to fulfill that kind of demand. And so by coming this kind of major, you'd really be fulfilling this demand, and you'd really be kind of growing off this like huge growth that's going to be occurring over the next few years in this field. Secondly, you'll also be having a direct positive impact on people, right? So while a lot of places or a lot of careers, your impact and your help isn't really direct, by being an agricultural science major, you're directly helping people access nutritious food, you're directly feeding people, and you're directly making the climate more sustainable. Sorry, not sustainable. You're making it more healthy, and you're kind of preventing climate change, right? By focusing on sustainable practices. Also, agricultural science is a very flexible major, right? So as I showed before, there's a lot of career paths and a lot of ways you can go as a agricultural science major, right? You can go to research, you can go to engineering, entrepreneurship, policy, education, etc. There's a really lot of paths beyond just farming, right? Again, it's not just farming. There's a ton of different paths and a ton of different opportunities that you can go from agricultural science. And again, it's not just farming, right? You won't just be a farmer. You'll really be focusing on everything around it, right? But you're not going to be really in the fields. You'll be focusing on, again, everything surrounding it and how to improve it. And so finally, I just want to say that I really do think that agricultural science is kind of like a hidden gem STEM major, right? When compared to like CS or like medicine, which are really kind of like popular majors, this is a really less known major, right? That I think is very important and vital to our future, right? The population is increasing, we need more food, and we need people to increase our production of food. And so the solution are these guys who will do it, which is why I really implore you all to go out, do your own research, explore these programs, right? Top colleges really do have these programs like Cornell, Purdue, etc. They offer these programs and they're great programs. So I really do implore you to consider agricultural science as a potential major for your future. And yeah, that's my video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.